Thank you for taking the time to look at the ebidtopay system. We are very much looking forward to do this project together with you, and we're thrilled to now go in depth into all the options and possibilities we have to support your source-to-contract processes. Basically, every customer of ours is getting his own supplier portal with his own login screen. Please see as an example Tesco, a customer we work for more than 15 years. Vivian Westwood, the Italian sustainability champion. And another example would be the Catholic Church, or the automotive supplier, world market leader in exhaust systems, Bossal, or the 20 billion sales petrol giant MOL Group, which we support in more than 15 countries. This could look, for instance, for ASAP the following way. It's not just a draft. And I need to highlight that internal users of ASAP typically would connect via single sign-on, so they would not need to remember a new password. They would be automatically logged into the system with their Windows login. How would it now look for a user when he enters the system? Basically, every user is having its personalized dashboard. It can be configured by user, by role, by site. So please excuse, mine is a bit overloaded, but I try to show you all the options. A typical item might be the to-do list on the left, where you see all your open tasks. I have been a bad boy. There's 560 open to-dos, but to work them is very easy. You just click on the to-do, then you are routed to the good element in the system to approve, like in this case, an approval of a milestone, and you're done. So additionally, in the dashboard, you would be seeing most of the important actions happening. In this case, the ongoing sourcing requests. Maybe you have some favorite items, some saved shopping carts, and I'm going to also show you some other things like analytics, so spend by month, the top suppliers, your ongoing contracts, your ongoing auctions, your ongoing RFXs. All this can be displayed in the dashboard, and those are just a couple of example cards. Our aim in the navigation is to be a lot easier to use than some of those competing systems. One main difference you see is that we are having not to go to different modules. You have all modules like supplier management, RFX, the negotiation, the contracting in one menu without the need to switch modules. The system comes ready-made with more than 27 languages, and they are all included in the basic quotation, so your suppliers, your team members can work in their native language. Let us now go a bit deeper into the system. To create a new RFQ is very easy. You can either basically go down on your list of existing RFQs and create a new RFQ, simply picking a template from the templates created for you, and like this, create something from scratch. But there's other options. You might simply copy an existing RFQ, like last year's RFQ on a specific topic, and just tweak it to represent the current numbers. Or maybe you've got a pre-saved RFQ template, or you have a requisition coming from SAP. Let's say that we need some new sheet metal, and basically the default provider would be Acerinox. But as it's quite a big quantity of sheets, you consider maybe it's a good moment to actually create an RFQ and see if the prices of the master agreement are still current. Then you can create a negotiation event with a simple click of a button, select the good template, and within one click, flip the requisition coming from SAP into an RFQ. So we want to run it from today until, say, 5th of October. We want to invite some colleagues from the company, for instance, Peter Züricher, and we can assign him automatically based on our RFQ template a good role, in this case a guest role. And on top of SRM, we're going into the supplier database and are picking some suppliers which are in the steel category and which feel like they might be doing some good competitive bidding. I'm just selecting some and pasting them into the pre-populated event. And the system is pretty smart. For instance, Brazil still doesn't have the okay from the category manager, so he cannot be inserted into this negotiation because he's not an approved supplier. So the system automatically checks, he only invites the good suppliers. The positions, including the quantities, are automatically copied and available. And, with the template, there could automatically come an NDA. In this case, we keep it simple and we're simply going out to the market and publishing this event. Let's now change roles, and I'm now connected as a supplier. Effectively, this supplier, he's now receiving an email and seeing there's a new event about sheet metal with 0% of progress. He's now clicking to quote, and if there would be an NDA, he would first have to accept it and sign it. In the present case, as we went fast, I'm simply putting the good prices, and I'm moving fast here, filling just the mandatory fields which are marked with a red asterisk. And it's pretty straightforward. The players just have to scroll down. And if you look at some other systems, there's tons of screens you have to go to. Here, it's just scrolling down, publishing your bid, and you're done. Let's also look at other options. I'm now the incumbent. I'm a bit concerned. I've been invited to a competitive bid. And one option here is when I'm entering the negotiation that I could actually quote online, but there's the other option to actually import data from Excel. And how does it look? So you can shoot out all the information into Excel, which is pretty helpful, especially if you have to quote 200, 300, 500, or even 1,000 positions. And in the Excel sheet, you're having all the information. You're seeing all the positions we're quoting for, and you can fill all the information and then shoot it up, what I'm going to do right now, uploading my quote. And this is as easy as quoting online, but suppliers prefer, if it's a lot of positions, to work offline. So I'm importing the data and go to my documents folder and found here my little quote. I have to, oh, it's actually another folder, sorry for that. It's a download folders. And here I have my quote from Acerinox, the incumbent, and I shoot it up. The system automatically updates the prices from the Excel, and I save and publish. Well, I'm sparing you now seeing it a third time, quoting by the third supplier, and rather move back to the buyer role. Here we're having the events, and I pre-populated an event already with some information. We have some very elaborate possibilities to actually score offers. So for instance, with the event template, there's coming the criteria on which a decision might be based. Just to illustrate, I have here quality, sustainability, supply chain excellence, and innovation as key dimensions in order to make it to the final round. And one or multiple evaluators can now actually score the suppliers based on those criteria. And if you put a knockout criteria, they wouldn't be even going into the commercial evaluation. Only those who actually have passed, for instance, a factory audit and be proven satisfactory would be available in the quote overview. Let's look at the quote overview. And, in this case, it's pretty simple. We're only having 3 vendors and a total of 5 positions. The system automatically offers some standard scenarios like cherry picking, where we are seeing highlighted the best positions. You can actually play with it and toggle and select a different placing scenario. Like for instance, I'm now saving this as two vendor best scenario. You could compare scenarios, but more importantly, you could then actually update the requisition and put those prices you selected into the requisition, and like this prepare a purchase order which could be passed by your ERP or our system depending on process. So we're seeing now it's Acerinox SA and Vietnam Steel who get the business, and it's actually the prices having been updated to the new prices, and like this you could now place an order. Another scenario is actually that you create a new master agreement. If we look back, there was actually a master agreement, and I'm going to show you maybe right now with Acerinox Steel. So if you look for those steel items, you'd be seeing that there's this master agreement with Acerinox, and you can also see how much has been spent and everything. But if we're now deciding that we want to have a second source and that we want to place some business also with the new vendor, in our case, if I may remind the placing scenario, we had here Vietnam Steel. If you would like to have a kind of agreement with Vietnam Steel, and I'm now also in terms of second source giving him a master agreement with all sources, then you can directly create from the quote overview a new contract. So I'm doing that. You can pick the good template in order to have all the good clauses established by your legal team on the latest version being established. The total value is created automatically from the placing scenario, calculating the prices, multiplying with the volumes. There's some other possibilities, like putting here some additional classification, and you might choose to make it not just a 1-year contract, but maybe do a 2-year contract leading on. And if you now press save, all the elements from the sourcing event from your negotiation are actually copied into a master agreement with Vietnam Steel, and I'm now opening it, going into the header data, and here we find all the elements. The contact details are automatically copied. We're having here my buyer contacts. You could be adding additional contacts from the corporate directory or registering some users which are not yet on. You automatically get a kind of expiry reminder, but you could tweak it. For instance, say, oh, I need this 1 month earlier in order to have enough time to negotiate a new deal. You could link the catalog for call-offs. Standard discounts might be contracted. And most importantly, you can automatically sign this electronically from the system, for instance, using DocuSign. So I'm now going to assign myself as first signer and the contact from my vendor as second signer. And this is it. I save myself, and if we go into the attachments, we'd be seeing all those elements exchanged during the sourcing event, exchanged during the RFQ, including the quotes of Vietnam Steel, all automatically being copied. You could be adding some additional files, and just, to show it, I'm going to pick something from my hard drive, like maybe there is an additional non-disclosure agreement or whatever that you need to attach to it. I don't find something here, but let's see if I find some nice PDF. I'm now taking the first one that's coming up, and let's take this one. And all those documents can be part of the signing process. I'm just uploading this now, and you can sign either via email or directly now inside the system, and like this you get everything done, and it shows that you can speed up the contract signing process by up to 60, sometimes 70% if you're now using some electronic signing possibilities. And now basically you can simply pick the documents, sign them with the signing mark, and you know the DocuSign drill. This will go through and you can sign it automatically this way. I'm just showing you. And now it's connecting to DocuSign. And when DocuSign is then actually updating the versions, you know, adding the signatures, we have two copies. One copy stored at the vault at DocuSign, and another copy actually coming on our side. So I'm not just signing myself, and it's coming in a nicely formatted way depending on template we've created, and we're done. The signature is done, and the system with the new contract is automatically updated. Our contract management actually offers some further options. We have AI-based recommendations on which clauses you should be using. And we also have the possibility to basically then do clause verification on the system itself. Just to give you a flavor, we have those nice clause management capabilities where you could get the latest clauses from legal, have AI add those kind of risk clauses, also tying in with your risk management and suggesting additional clauses in case a supplier is a little bit borderline, a little bit on the orange traffic light, maybe not on the red, but you know, if you need some additional precautions, the system would add those clauses. And here you go, you can export to Word. There's still a lot of people who love to negotiate contracts on Word. Obviously, we can also do the ping pong online. But then if you receive a new version, you have here the nice version comparison capabilities. We can see the changes the supplier might have had. We could accept them or delete them, and then finally come to the signing process. So the document management, it's everything. It's basically a repository. It's an AI-based system to suggest the best clauses. It helps you on the collaboration, and afterwards in the execution it assures all the rebates are taken, because we will track every order towards the contract and make sure the rebates are automatically triggered, like we've seen on the SRM example a little bit in the beginning. The example of the RFQ I've shown has been a rather simple one. Let's look at some more elaborate examples. In this case, I'm buying the exhaust system for a classic car. And I think the main point I want to make here is that we can have a full bill of materials, in the sense of having indefinite sub-levels which make the bill of materials. And for the quotation, we can have cost breakdowns where, for instance, you'd be classifying what's the material type, what's the gross weight, what's the raw material price the supplier is buying, how much labor is he putting in, what's the scrap revenue, what's his packaging cost, etc. And like this, you get full transparency about the various elements of this exhaust system. Can see if a supplier might be pretty good on his own production, might have a problem in how he's buying the raw materials, and tie into deeper sourcing levers in the sense of optimizing your results. And besides simply now running those quotations in a multi-round way, evaluating them, we can also have an exchange about ideas how to modify the design. So to illustrate that, suppliers can actually maybe do an alternative proposal where they'd be commenting on the drawings he's received from you and say, okay, if we could be making this component here, let's say in steel, we could save 10% in manufacturing cost, And, it involves drawing, highlighting things, various possibilities in terms of making some suggestions to improve the design. And like this, you might have a quote for your original design, but maybe also some improvement ideas that in the second round you might then distribute to all the suppliers to get really the best offer with the best design, and make a breakthrough progress in a combination of finding new sources and improving the design of the product. ebidtopay has been rated very recently, actually in June, Best Global Supplier Management System by the top analysts Spend Matters for companies up to 1 billion of spend. Similarly, Forrester has put us on a very high position in the Sustainable Procurement report about to be published, beating providers such as Jagger or Sapariba and Cooper. So what's this about? Let's illustrate this with a fictive example of Apple. On all your vendors, you can actually get a supplier 360 with a simple click of the mouse, where you'd be finding in the design you want all the information you care about, like how's Apple on certificates, what's happening on the company documents, did they assign your code of ethics, how about their EcoVadis score? Are they good? Do they have a medal? How does it break down in the dimensions? You may go very deep in terms of their environment footprint, their labor and human rights. Collect all the details on this company. And actually, one of the fun things of ebidtopay is that it's very easy now to extend also the supplier management to include novel legal things like the EU Supply Chain Act, diversity, water footprint. And on all this, you're autonomous because we have a very easy to use Google Forms like user interface where you could be adding dimensions into the KPI on which you measure your supply base. On one view, you'd be having, for instance, all your contracts, all your RFQs, his performance. You could be seeing the results of the last supplier evaluation. How does your team think about the supplier? Are there some issues? Even very detailed, this one doesn't have data, but just to show you the kind of amount of information we might be tracking a supplier on, it's really without limits, and you can make inside ebidtopay exactly the good representation that you need. We bring standard forums to measure topics like country risk, diversity, finance, quality, legal. We can tweak them together. And additionally, obviously, there's a possibility without cost to link this to external information providers. The linking is free of charge. You would have to pay the information providers, but there's ready-made interfaces for the major ones like Dun & Bradstreet, Bureau van Dijk, EcoVadis, you name them. So very powerful supplier management. You can establish manually or automatically improvement measures. What I mean with that, if you're, for instance, now looking at this supplier Apple, you might be having some measures triggered either by them being below certain target thresholds on the KPI. For instance, there might be, it's a fictive one obviously, that they need to improve quality on some elements, and then you can set some milestones. There's a collaboration, they're going to tell you how they progress. And the sky actually is the limit. You can go very detailed and do those kind of milestones and measures. And they can also be triggered in an automatic fashion based on your best practice templates if they're going below certain threshold values in the supplier evaluation. So it's risk management, it's supplier management, it's health and safety. You can manage the carbon footprint. It's very elaborate, and I'm going to show you in a minute some of the spectacular analytics you can actually do on ebidtopay. We offer some very powerful analytics based on the leading analytics platform Click. If you prefer another one, we can recreate the same on the likes of Tableau. So this is just the standard vendor we use if there's no other one in place. But talking about supplier management on all the dimensions you care for, you can basically get an overview. For instance, if we want to now see our aluminium providers, you can go into the data. It will automatically refresh. You will see where your aluminium providers are currently based. You can toggle retaining the filter into different views. So you'd be seeing automatically like, where do my aluminium suppliers stand on all our KPI? Just to show you what's possible, we have here 10 KPI. Actually, it's 12, sorry for miscounting. Quality, finance, innovation, legal compliance, environment, safety. And you can, go directly into individual suppliers, see their score, compare scores, see how things are faring. And this always maintains the filters. So if you do a deep dive on your aluminium suppliers, how they stand on labor and human rights compared to country risk, you'd see exactly where it stands. You can see the country risk. And the nicest thing is you can actually work on those dashboards and modify them and edit them and change things around if you want to change something. It's very easy. You do not need any programming knowledge. You can reformat things. It's very straightforward and very powerful. So, just to give you a flavor, some other views here, we're still on aluminium. If I'd erase my filter, we'd be seeing the complete spend and see all the categories in this demo cube and an ABC analysis. It's very graphic. You can just, click into it. You can expand views. There's the possibility to rather do a selection of multiple suppliers with this kind of rope selection. It automatically refreshes. You see what you want to see, and you have all the options to also export this to Excel, to PowerPoint, see it in a map view, see the total, and get a real good feel for where's your supply base, how does it actually care for. One of the nicest touches in the age of AI is that you can actually talk to your data. Here we support augmented analytics. You can do it, with a mic, or you can simply type some kind of questions, and the system then will actually suggest you new views to look at your data. So if we're going to now tip supplier, just something, I'm just tipping supplier, and the system will now suggest you new views. I have this language section and setting German, sorry for that, so it's responding this way. The AI, the bot, is now thinking about what are intelligent views to view the data on a supplier. And here they come. You can simply scroll down and see that they're having the possibility, for instance, to see how do suppliers with your spend actually are distributed between the various expert suppliers, non-production. Those would be your supplier categories. In a way, you would be seeing a kind of analysis, average spend per supplier, average spend depending on category. And if you like one of those analysis, say this one, you can actually create a new dashboard. The dashboards created by AI would become part of the standard view to viewing your data. Here's just some examples actually suggested by the Insight bot. Like this, you really get something back from the system intelligence. And you can also combine those reports into what's called storytelling, like a regular monthly report you'd be sending to decision makers or management, having always the updated numbers, but freeing you from the toil of, copy pasting some Excel numbers into a PowerPoint. It's fully automatic. You get the updated report directly from the system. ebidtopay also offers you powerful insight on spend analysis, and we will really make it perfect for you adapting those kind of standard views I'm going to show. Let me just give you a first flavor of how a spend analysis plus a combined analysis of additional ERP data might look. So we're entering here as a cube, just going into various views. And there might be, for instance, a management dashboard where we're seeing aggregate numbers and your key KPI in a good way. For instance, your top suppliers and what they basically charge you. One might be going into the details, like how was the development, what's the cost of goods year to date, how much cost did we have actually on defective products, what's the average price, how was the development, what's the cost trend, hopefully going down with inflation coming under control. It's this kind of views that really help you to understand your data, how are things developing every quarter, what is the kind of global view of your supply base. You can expand, collapse everything, zoom in, zoom out, see the various elements, and like that get control over the data. Good news, the defects and amounts they cost you are under control. This is a good insight you can then actually use to narrow down the initiatives you want to run, where are you going to do sourcing initiatives, and how are you going to step by step even improve on those already quite powerful data. And on top of those kind of more management-like reports, you can also do nice pivot style analysis, which is more for those experts really going into the details, where you select all your data and then find exactly how things develop and where you can save some extra cents and euros in order to optimize your performance by site, by country, or buying globally across your organization. ebidtopay doesn't stop with smart spend analysis and supplier management. We're having some elements you wouldn't find in any other competing system. And that's I think because we've been doing it for so many years, we're a bit deeper in the subjects than some of our competing vendors. One of the most important levers actually to progress in purchasing are the ideas and the improvement ideas of your staff, how to actually come across. Even though there's always a lot of money and bundling demand and getting better conditions and negotiating prices, you can very often get even further if you collaborate with your vendors, or if your staff is suggesting ideas how you can make a breakthrough progress. So here we are having the possibility to enable in your intranet a kind of smart icon, so that staff could be suggesting ideas like putting new localization ideas, using sustainability as a lever to save cost, like refilling your toner cartridges locally. The sky's the limit, and just to give you a bit more flavor of what's behind it, let's look in detail at one of those savings ideas and how our system is supporting you to actually get all the ideas possible and then prune them and select the best ones in order to put your resources on where the most money is. So this one is about a self-driving transport vehicle. Funny thing is, it's actually been produced. It's part of an open innovation challenge, and ebidtopay supports you in open innovation. So you provide some templates to your staff to suggest ideas, for instance, an open innovation idea. And then each template is actually bringing some target dimensions, like what's the potential, what are the revenues, what are the cost savings. You put the dimensions you wish. People are actually submitting those ideas. It's very easy. It's like Facebook, it's like social media. It's one screen and you put your essentials of the idea. Then users can vote on it using a typical Facebook voting, giving you a first feel of how much energy is there behind this idea. And then there is actually a structured process coming with a template involving, for instance, engineering, management, finance, and sustainability. And there is a workflow which is automatically being created. So once you have the kind of vote of your team, of your staff on this idea, on the ideation phase, there's maybe a business case workshop, there's an evaluation, a go, no-go in decision to take this further. And all this is automatically created. There's workflows, there's tasks. And in the end, if this project is great, and there's this rule that it's typically 1 out of 3, you go into implementation. You can fine-tune what your ambitions are, how you're going to track it by category, by division, how long the implementation is. You can then control this, including approval workflows in the system. For instance, in this case, it's about market potential, additional revenues, and additional margin. And you can then basically report this by organizational unit. I have a couple of examples here. This would obviously in your case be the various ESAP units. And then it's basically going through the various reporting periods. There's controlling, checking the data. In this case, it's monthly reporting, but it's also supporting quarterly, annual, or even more granular reporting. And there you are. In the end, you're tracking the savings. You can connect it to negotiation events, to contracts, to POs, in order to really be sure those savings are there. And finally, across all your savings initiatives, there's powerful reports where you could then see what really scored you big this year. It's just an example, but this is really something which is much smarter than just playing suppliers against each other, collaborating, taking the intelligence of your suppliers, taking the intelligence of your staff, and coming up with breakthrough savings ideas which help you, even in times of inflation, to improve your bottom line. So ebidtopay, it's doing everything you'd be finding with Coupa or Ariba. You're just having far less clicks, it's easier to use, and it's combined with great analytics and with smart idea management. So, we hope we can really contribute to your organization and have a fun system that will be accepted by everybody and which lead to great results for ESAP by being a combination, not just saving cost, but also making ideas flourish and improve the way you do business. Thank you.